This is the Blairing Out with Eric Blair show, and today I'm pleased to have Jack Grisham, frontman for the legendary Los Angeles punk band T.S.O.L, songwriter, gubernatorial candidate, actor, political activist, and now author of An American Demon, a memoir by Jack Grisham. One of the things I noticed you made a point of was not giving out anybody's last name in the book.
Right.
Although knowing about punk rock history, I knew that Pat Brown was in there and that there were different people that were legends in just the whole mythology of punk rock. Why did you make that decision?
Well, I left out the names because it turned out as the book was developing, and I didn't even see this coming, but really the names didn't matter as much as what you're saying, the psychological aspects behind the story. The disturbing, that's what counted. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that it's not a book about Pat Brown. It's not a book about Todd Barnes. It's not a book about me. You know, even the editor at the publishing house said, Jack, you don't even need to stick your name on this. It's not about you. It's not about T.S.O.L. It's about the story behind it. It's the story of this man, this selfish, self-centered, driven man that creates this wreckage and destroys these people while he's doing it. I mean, this is really what the story's about. So it's a battle of self. So naming these people didn't really matter. You know, and I know some people were looking, I'm looking for dirt. There's no dirt in there. It's not about that. You know, the story isn't about that. That's what makes this book so much different than all those other rock books. Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's involved. We're not talking, the names don't matter. It's the story. And it's actually kind of interesting if you think about it. I always use different names in T.S.O.L. And, you know, and back then I'd tell people the names don't matter. It's the music, it's the band. And now we're writing a book. This book comes out and it's the same thing. The names don't really matter. But yeah, if you've lived around here, you know little story, you know who these people are and what they did. And a lot of people I didn't want to hurt. That was another thing. When you're writing this kind of a book, I don't want to do any more damage. I spent a lot of time making up for the damage I've done to people, you know, and I don't want to hurt anyone else. So changing names so they don't get hurt, so someone doesn't come up and say, hey, I read about you in Jack's book, you know. And on a side note, there were guys that said, use my real name, man. They didn't care. They're saying, use it, I want my name in there.
You first hear punk rock in 1977. Tell me about that experience.
It was trippy. I mean, for a lot of people that don't realize, society's completely changed since then. I mean, and it's changed so much, it's unbelievable. I mean, the acceptance of dyed hair, tattoos was something. Only people that had tattoos were guys in the Navy, or if you'd been in prison. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Those were the guys that got tattoos. Kids weren't walking around with tattoos. There wasn't cable TV. There wasn't internet. There wasn't cell phones. So a lot of the news that you were familiar with was just local news. You know, straight local news. Even dialects in our country were so much stronger because they didn't have all this outside information coming. So go back then, we're coming out of the 70s, we're talking about love, we're talking about peace, we're talking about whatever, and all of a sudden guys are singing about abortions. And guys are singing about killing people and killer's eyes. And so it was a really big shock to see these guys. And then not only was it the songs, but it was the way they looked. You know, there was that hard, evil look, the dark black, the cutting themselves, the not caring. I mean, from a society that is so plastic-oriented with the way, you know, the teeth, the smile, the hair, the tits, all this stuff. And now here are these guys just going out filthy in dirty clothes, you know, cut up ugly, had become chic. So it really was a big shock. And when I first heard that, I was... it was almost like stumbling onto your dad's penthouse or something. You know what I mean? Finding a dirty book hidden under the corner. It's like, oh my God, Rodney on the rocks playing this. Listen to this. You know, it was crazy. It was really a big head trip at the time for a lot of people. A big shift.
Okay, so during the vicious circle period, you say in the book that at that point it was dangerous to leave your house alone.
Right. I injured a lot of people. I mean, and not only Not only are people upset about the way you looked, you know, it's like, because you look like a freak, you know, so, and then not only that, there's all the sensationalism behind it. You know, you got newspaper stories about kids holding grandmothers down and cutting their faces with razor blades, and you know, just I mean, it was blown out of place. It's crazy. It was like looking for a yellow cake uranium in Iraq. It's, you know, it was crazy. It's like everybody's a trouble. Everybody's evil. Everybody, all these punker guys, we got to run them out of here. So you got all that going on. Okay. But then a lot of those stories in regard to me were true. I mean, I was doing some vicious crap, So besides so you got the hey, we want this guy out of here because he's a punk. And now we want this guy out of here because he's a punk and he's making bombs and he's blowing up buildings and he's doing all. I'll tell you a story one time. There are these guys that were notorious badasses in Long Beach. I mean, fighting cops, they're dead now. They're gone. I mean, these guys were just frightening characters, man, And so I'm pumping gas at a service station one time, and I'm wearing a fur coat, and I'm in my Roadster. I had this black Roadster that had a demon airbrushed on the hood. So, my calling card, I got a demon on the hood of my Roadster, and I'm wearing a black fur jacket, and I got my hair maroon, and I'm with a friend of mine who's now dead, and he's sporting, a young little kid, and he's sporting leopard skin. He's got a little dog collar on, right? So these tough guys pull up beside the vehicle. And they pull up, and when I see them, I mean, my heart drops. Because I'm thinking, hey, I'm really going to get the living shit beaten out of me by these guys. This is not, hey, I can do whatever I want, but it's not going to work out. These are big guys. I'm going to take a licking. And so I just keep putting gas in. So they slide the side door of the van open, and they're in there. There's a couple of them. And it's basically like a murder wagon pulling up. I mean, this was a frightening trip, right? And I look over and I smile at them. And I keep putting gas in the car. I just turn around and put gas in the car. So, and I can feel them looking at me, like when you feel somebody looking at you, right? And so the little kid I was with, now at the time, he's 12 or 13, he looks at these guys and says, "What you looking at, fatso?" To one of the dudes, right? Because he's a little punk kid and he's trying to be punk. He doesn't know these guys. He's with me. He wants to show off and be a little punk, right? But now these other guys, they don't know from nothing. All of a sudden, they're used to being feared, and they pull up on this car of a couple of freaks, and the littlest kid is yelling, "What are you looking at, fatso?" to these guys, right? And the guy's sitting there, and then the kid that's with me says, "That's it. I think you need to walk away. My dad will beat your ass. He'll beat your ass, man." He's talking about me to these guys. Okay, so I just put gas in. The kid keeps taunting them. Saying stuff, "Make a move, fatty," just really calling them out. And I look at him and I smile again, and I keep putting gas in the car, and then we just drive off and go away. Now they're shocked because they've never seen behavior like that. Now I'm scared to death, man, thinking, it's like, hey, we just got out of here basically with our teeth intact. And but they're terrified. These guys are frightened because they'd never seen this, and they didn't know what this was. And they'd heard stories of me making bombs and stories of me ripping off graves and digging up stuff. So basically to them, they had just rolled up on Ted Bundy or something. I mean, that's what they're thinking. They're thinking, oh my God, it's this guy. And at first they think we're going to kick his ass. But then here's a 12-year-old kid calling him out. And so they don't know what to think about it. And I'm smiling at him. I just keep putting gas in the car and drive off. So a couple of months later, I talked to one of these guys. And they seriously thought I had a gun. I mean, they just didn't know what was going on. When I talked to them, they go, "Hey, man," because then they started coming around because they dug it. It's like, because the cops weren't happy with me and everyone else. So they're stoked. They're thinking, okay, super criminal Jack. We love him,
Yeah.
So, but they said, "Man, that was trippy," because here's a 12-year-old calling us out. So they didn't know what to do about it. Another story about a quick shift that happened. A friend of mine had been in prison for quite some time. So he'd been in prison since the early 70s. And he gets out in the 80s, and punk rock's happening. And he doesn't know what's going on. And I take him to an outdoor show we were playing in a park. And he's got he's got a big pit bull with him, and he's like a tough biker dude, and he's got a pit bull. And the band starts playing, and all of a sudden the kids start dancing. He freaks out and lets the dog go at him because he thinks automatic gang fight. Like, he has no idea. He's never seen anything like this. When he went in, people are disco dancing or whatever they're doing, right? All of a sudden he gets out, and it's like all this huge mosh pit. And he was freaking out. He didn't know what it was. He goes, "These people are killing each other. They're beating on each." It's like, what, 1, 2, 3, go, have a gang fight? Like, he didn't know what was that. And he let the dog go. I mean, the dog was biting the shit out of people.
One of the parts of the book that I thought where you were really out of control is when you kidnapped that girl, Danny.
Right.
Where is she today?
I have no idea.
Really?
Yeah. There was I had made an attempt to make amends to her for the behavior that we had done, what was going on. And I couldn't get a hold of her. There was a Facebook page that showed up that then disappeared, wasn't there. So I really have no idea where she's at. And of course, the other two guys in the story, Todd and Pat, are both dead. So out of the 4 people involved in that story, the only one probably alive now is me.
You did go to a 12-step program, correct?
Well, I go to recovery program, different 12-step programs. We don't say what program we go to, because no program really wants to be associated with me. Do you see what I'm saying? Because if I screw up, they don't want to say, "Oh, he goes here,
and that's
he's
why.
an idiot." Yeah. They're all idiots. So yeah, I used the 12 steps for recovery, and that's what I've done. I've been sober now, and I can say sober. Sober's legitimate. I'm recovering alcoholic, sober for the last 22 years.
Essentially, you're supposed to go and make amends with people.
So yeah, you can say you're supposed to make those amends and do those things, but that's not really true. Basically, when you wake up and see yourself as an asshole, you want to clear it up. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's say I wake up and my behavior here has been completely out of control. I wasn't polite to you. I was disrespectful to everybody that was working here. So let's say I go home and all of a sudden I think, God, you know what, man? Those guys were nice to me and I was a real shit. Now, nobody's going to make me come back and apologize to you. If I've really woken up, if I really see that behavior, then it's almost like there's no way I'm not going to come back. Do you see what I'm saying? Because I just can't live with that. So I'd come back to you and say, Eric, I want to apologize to you and the staff, everybody here. You guys were kind to me, and this is the way I've treated you. I hope you would forgive me. So yeah, you can say in 12-step program they make you do it, but they don't make you do it. Nobody makes you do anything there. Hopefully, you wake up and see yourself, the behavior that you're doing is unacceptable, and then you want to change it. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like you want to change it. That's why a lot of people say 12-step programs don't work. You bet they don't work unless you're awake. And if you're awake, they work 100% of the time.
Well, is there any things from your past that you've wanted to make good that still haunt you because you haven't been able to make them good?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. There's actually a story. There's a story in the book of a man that a friend and I attacked one afternoon. It's a story about him spitting at our car and then us chasing him down and beating him up. That is something that I'm never going to be able to walk away from. I can't find him. I made an effort to find him, no way to find him. It was a random attack, a very vicious attack. And it's something that has troubled me since I woke up. So what I can do instead is, first of all, change the behavior, not live like that, like I'm living anymore. And then what I try to do is stick my hand out to people that may look like him, that may represent him. I'll see them and then some way they represent that man, older, little over middle age, maybe going back to school, to college, trying to better their lives. And these are people I'll reach out to, give my number, try to see if I can make any assistance. So by proxy, I use them to pay back him.
Now that you can look back at the early years of T.S.O.L., is there anything you would change about that period?
No, because there's stuff that I regret but would not change. Because the things that I've done or gone through or have happened to me are the things that basically have shaped the way I am today. It's very selfish to want to go back and remove stuff from your past, because we never know how something's going to benefit someone else. If my real job now is to be a benefit to people that are looking for help, all these things that I've gone through and experienced, loss, hurt, abuse, all this stuff are basically tools that I can use to serve someone else now. I can share with them. I can say, well, I felt that. I went through that. I understand where you're coming from. So something to help give comfort to others. So would I change anything? No. Do I have regrets? Yeah. I mean, in my selfishness, I'm sorry that I treated people the way that I did a lot of times, So and I do my best to try to pay it back on a daily basis.
The Blaring Out Show.